yesterday, and Carolina basically had a series win against a top 15 team. And how the narrative would have been so much different had they held on. And then I'm like, I want to get your thoughts on this, baseball guy. The play, let's start with the play by Kazmir.
Okay.
How would you label that play?
As far as like in the books, would it go down as a hit or an error? It went down as a hit.
It went down as a hit. Yeah. And I can tell you, as someone who's called my share of college games and Major League Baseball games, that's called a hit universally.
Sure.
It's not an error. No. However, and this is where I want to get your take, and I know you were a catcher, not a shortstop, that's a play that certainly can be made.
Or at least knocked down.
You go for the backhand pick, and you come up empty. So, like, I saw a number of people said, well, that's a routine play. It's not routine.
No.
It's wrong to call – it's a screamer. It's wrong to call it routine. It's not wrong to say at least get a body on it, at least make some contact with it. Like, I understand the frustration there.
Yeah, so I certainly would have given it a hit. I think Kent nailed it with that. There's no doubt. But I thought he was trying to be a little too fine, as in he was trying to get his foot down, pick it cleanly, and make a brilliant play. And while we can all appreciate that, there's no question, and he's capable of making the play. In the moment, in the ninth inning there, when you're just trying to save base runners and save runs, the most important thing is to catch the baseball, period, the end. You got to catch the baseball. And I think that was a mistake on his part. And, I think Kazmir, had he to do it over again, would have made sure that the ball was at least in his glove so nobody could advance. Are you going to be able to make a throw there? Probably not. Maybe, but probably not if you field it cleanly. And if you knock it down, you're making sure that the advancing runner doesn't get all the way to third. So I thought that was a mistake. I thought it was a mental error, not an actual error.
Agreed.
And then I know where you're going next. Obviously, Carry-On is – I think Carry-On – when people use the term elite a lot, and I do think that gets a little we get a little loose with that term. I'd say if you want to call anybody right now elite on the infield at South Carolina, it's KJ Scobie at third. If you want to get close to that term with any,
he can be special.
He's got a chance. There's no question about it, Mike. You've seen some great third basemen when you were the voice of the Gamecocks.
Yeah,
Brian Busher and Neil Giesler come to mind, obviously, and there's been plenty since then. This kid it is as slow for him over there as it is for any third baseman that I've seen, especially as a true freshman. I mean, he can really slow it down. Carry-On is not, I don't want to say elite, but he's a very, very good second baseman. And I thought the play deep in the 4-hole should have been at least knocked down and made, or at least had a close play. Should have been knocked down. He had a body angle issue on that one. And then the ground ball where he didn't cover the bag, and I get it, he was shifted over, but it doesn't matter. You've got to be able to cover second base. You can't just give it up. If there's a ground ball,
sprint there.
Yeah, it's going to be a timing play. When you're in a shift, that's going to be a timing play, but you already know that. If there's a ground ball to the shortstop, you got a man on first, and he's going to advance to second. You have to be able to get to the bag.
Yeah.
So I think it was a total brain fart there. I thought the defense, really was I guess poor in the ninth inning, and that was one of the reasons they lost the game. Mike, it didn't just stop there though. And, the 7th, 8th, and 9th, they had 6 walks. 3 of those runners scored. I think, and this was something we're going to talk to John about. I don't ever want to second guess necessarily coaching decisions because I'm not around the club all day. I'm not coaching the teams. It's hard to do that unless they're blatant. When it comes to Becker, who has struggled to find some consistency on the mound. And I know I'm just kind of taking what you asked and kind of running in a bunch of different directions, but I'm trying to open up the conversation here.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned when he came in the game, and let me tell you why. He was one of your weekend guys just a week ago. And obviously he didn't pitch well enough to stay in the weekend rotation. And he came in on Friday night and he threw very well. But, he had been I'm just trying to put, I'm taking myself back to, being in the uniform and understanding pitchers. And when you get moved out of the rotation and into the bullpen, you obviously are going to you have to prepare your body and your arm differently. You're going to be used more than likely more often, but in shorter stints, right? So you're not going to get 5 or 6 days to prepare for a start. You might get a day or two to prepare from the last time that you pitched. But it is hard, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for anybody here, but it is hard when you make that transition from starter to bullpen guy to get your body ready to pitch again 2 days later. Now, at some point in time, you have to do it, but his stuff was up yesterday. Did you notice that? Everything he threw was up. Mm-hmm. Everything, almost everything. And anything that was down, I felt like he was overcompensating. And that to me looked like his arm, like, I don't know if it was tired or he just didn't have it because he was kind of new to this role and being back in that role. So I was a little curious about that decision, not because I don't believe in Matthew Becker. I think he has to pitch well for them to win a bunch of games this year, but because he had just transitioned to it, getting a day of rest and coming back into the game, I was a little concerned with that. And everything, like I said, everything was up. God, he could have left 1 or 2 over the middle of the plate and they could have hammered him out of the ballpark. And now that didn't happen, but it could have. So, I think there was a few things that happened in the 7th, 8th, and 9th yesterday that obviously allowed Oklahoma to win the game. I want to give them credit, of course. Anytime you win a game, you deserve credit for winning the game. But I also would counter that comment with I think South Carolina did a lot of things to kind of blow it, and I believe that they did.
Yeah, look, a lot of the things going into the decisions you're talking about goes back to what I'll repeat from before opening day. I mean, this is not one of the most talented teams in the SEC. It's just not. They're going to have to win in spite of that.
Yeah.
And you had a golden opportunity to do that. You had a golden opportunity to beat, again, a top 15 team at home. And I thought that when you went with Sweeney, and look, this is where the college game is so different. They put their closer in the 7th, and he winds up finishing the game with I don't know how many pitches, around 60, give or take.
And he almost killed 2 guys too.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not going to get off this. Not to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get off of this horse. I'm going to stay on it. I'm going to ride this thing until somebody figures it out. I said it last year, and Whit Merrifield spoke about it in the big leagues. I'm tired of watching guys who are trying to throw 100 miles an hour, don't have a freaking clue where it's going. I'm sick of it. I mean, the Georgia-Kentucky series this weekend, there were 23 hit batters, or 23 walk/hit batters. 23. Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And I mean, you're talking about 90. I mean, Nathan Hall almost got hit in the head this weekend.
Yeah, it was scary.
I mean, that ball, if it would have clipped his nose, he'd be out for the year. So, I mean, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of seeing this. Poor mechanics. It's happening all over. And these college guys are doing everything they can to impress the dudes that are back there with the guns, who they're going to make their money. And then the big leagues, you know how it works, Mike. You're around the Braves. They get into the organization, and then they throw hard. So we'll teach them how to pitch. Well, these guys don't know how to pitch. They're everywhere. Someone's going to get hurt bad. And I'll get off that. We'll come back to it another day.
Yeah, I mean, it's college pitchers, and you're right. They're all trying to max out. They're obsessed with the gun because that's what they're taught. That's the way you get to the bigs. If you don't light up a high number on the gun on a regular basis, you're probably not going to be drafted high, if at all. But I'll just say in closing, I mean, Whittle will kind of rehash everything. It's obviously a golden opportunity, and I think today feels a lot different about this team if they somehow put that game away, and they should have. They squandered it. It's not a talented enough team where they can have critical errors and mental errors and just plays that should be made and then just overcome it with talent. That's not where this team is. It's not where this program is. We could do a whole it's such a busy day, and I don't want to get too into the weeds on this. But I think a lot of people just thought whoever got this job, that this program was going to, just do a 180 and just like take the fast track to Omaha. That's not how this thing works.
Right. In 8 months.
Yeah. When you make a coaching change in baseball today, you are so far behind the 8 ball in getting players. I thought they did about as good a job as you can, considering all that. And it's not a team devoid of talent. It's just you're going to see this through a 30-game SEC grind. And some of you might get frustrated and just give up, and that's your right to do so. A lot of people talking about some of the empty seats in the crowd. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, for some people, they're only interested in Gamecock baseball if the team is really good. And that's look, when Dawn Staley leaves South Carolina, and if you think that women's basketball is still going to be a perennial Final Four team, you might want to recalibrate, because that's unlikely to happen. Right. Okay. You've got a Hall of Fame coach that gets the best players in the country every year. So they're going to be a regular Final Four contender. When they go, do you think the CLA is going to be even half full for women's basketball when she's gone? And whoever comes in, I'm sure they'll make a great hire, but they're probably not going to be Dawn Staley. Some people just assumed, and some people are still mad at Ray for retiring as much as anything else, that every coach after that was going to just kind of take the baton and go. It's just not that easy. And Paul Maneri, I think, is a terrific hire, but I had very realistic expectations about this year's team. Mm-hmm. Just knowing what I know about the league and how hard it is, and how these other programs that have had their coach there for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, they're already established. They've already got their pipeline of talent. So I would hope that fans would still support the program, even if it's not going swimmingly well. But that's just me. You have a right to do what if you don't want to go to the game, you don't have to go to the game. If you want to flood the message boards and trash everybody imaginable, you can do it. I mean, JC doesn't censor people, right? Within reason. I don't see where that's really a productive point, to just trash the program, trash the coach, trash the former coach, trash the former AD. Like, at some point, is any of that remotely constructive? I don't personally think it is, but look, I'm not saying it's the only place that goes on. When LSU loses a series, it's like the sky is falling.
Sure.
But for around this program now for, the better part of a decade, Jamie, it's just been a lot of toxic stuff just coming out left and right. And I just think the only thing I would say to reasonable fans is to be a little bit patient with this thing, because it doesn't get turned around overnight just because you bring a Hall of Fame coach in. It's a Hall of Fame coach. It's not an Omaha roster. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say on that.